Alright, hey everyone. This is another video in preparation for my summer garden. Collecting these oleanders and composting them down because it's free. Normally the landscapers get these and take them straight to the dump. Or if they're smart, they'll go on Craigslist and look for someone that's looking for these leaves or wood chips and give them to them for free and save the $50 charge of dumping them and save the environment from taking tons and tons and tons of organic nutrients to the landfill, making them unusable for anything. So all these oleanders are what I use. I've already harvested all the way to there. I just need that much more to go to finish my pile, which is started now. I started it about 30 minutes ago. I just got to finish it tonight or tomorrow morning, and go from there. So what I'll do is I'll show you the pile and kind of what I'm using as far as my method of composting, which is the California method. Give me a sec. That's my pile. I have 10 of these grow bags, 10 gallon to put them in. I found 10 gallon grow bags with like a reinforced stitching, and then 16-inch saucers on Amazon, both on Amazon, 2-day shipping with Prime. And I'm gonna fill them with that and some Seamus O'Leary soil in the bottom 2 inches for aeration and for drainage, because that saucer is about 3 inches. I might even do 3 inches or so of the Seamus compost, not compost, but the Seamus soil, tree soil. So these are the oleanders here. The base is 4 foot by 4 foot, and the height right now is about 2.5 feet tall. Again, it's not really as high as it's gonna be. I think when I get all the rest of the leaves, it'll be about there, and it'll be wider too. So, okay. So what I'm doing is I'm using free leaves, and basically what I'm doing is I'm using stuff that would normally go to a landfill, and I'm using it to create a compost with. There's something in the church.
Yeah, there's a man in the church flying the leaves.
Okay, leave him alone. Okay. That's a little Benny. He's learning the ropes too. So what I'm doing is using stuff that would normally go to a landfill, being these leaves from landscaping, and then I'm also I could be using manure from like a and I'm sorry for the weed whacking in the background. I don't know how loud that is. It's pretty loud. Let me pause the video. All right, sorry about that. They're blowing the oleander leaves in the parking lot across from me. So luckily I got most of them. But so what I'm not using manure. I'm using free leaves, and I'm using urine that I collected. That would also normally go to a water treatment facility and then off to the ocean with extra chemicals added to it. So I'm saving that process, saving a lot of flushes, saving my water bill, and I'm bringing nutrients from my body to my garden in a circle method, all at the same time. So with the California method, what you do is you make your pile. Preferably, the method states as far as having internal temperatures to be the optimal range of 140 to 160 degrees, 160. So 140 through 160 is you want to have it 4 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot tall. Okay, and once you get everything mixed up, your greens and browns, which I will discuss, get everything mixed up. You get your pile built up. It's all nice and moist. You want to turn that every 3 to 5 days, preferably every 3 days, and then 21 days later, your compost is finished. And the reason it's finished is because you're turning it and aerating it and stimulating the bacteria to just go super speed. And then it also has enough density within it as far as the volume to have the internal temperatures such to where it helps it break down that much faster also. With the California method, every turn, you want to take what's on the middle core, the inside, and put it on the outside of the pile. And then what's on the outside of the pile, you put into the middle of the pile. So when you take this and you bring it here, you would be taking the top, maybe foot, and putting it in the middle. And then you take the middle out and you put it around. And then you take some of the outside and you put it in the middle. Take more of the middle put on the outside. So each time you turn it, you bring the middle to the outside and the outside to the middle. That way, every part of the pile has a chance to get to the middle of the pile. And in doing that, you're going to have anything in the middle of the pile heating up to at least 140 degrees. So any of your weed seeds, your bad bacteria, which is going to be your anaerobic bacteria, will hopefully die, to where you could use for your green, which I'll probably just discuss this right now, like your grass clipping, which is going to be a green, which is green supply nitrogen and browns supply carbon. And greens and browns also supply other things to your pile. So plant roots go down into the soil, and then they bring up the nutrients that they need to build themselves. So you have phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, zinc, iron. You have nitrogen. You have boron. You have all kind of different nutrients in these leaves. Magnesium, calcium, that they're pulling up. So just because you say green and brown, nitrogen and carbon, that's not all the compost is. You're going to be bringing in all the nutrients that a plant needs to make itself up. Especially if you're doing some more of this too, like more of your browns. So all of your branches and stuff, once they dry up, they become brown. Your leaves, while wet, are considered green because they still contain nitrogen in them. But once this leaf dies and becomes the same leaf when it was green at first, now it's a brown. So now instead of having a higher percentage of nitrogen in the leaf compared to carbon, now it has a higher percent of carbon in the leaf compared to nitrogen, so it's a brown. And when you're doing the California method, you want to have it 50-50 mix of carbon and nitrogen by weight, not by volume. So if you're doing like a lot of leaves, which have a lot of air, and then you're gonna, for your brown and then for your green, so you want to use like a manure, nice wet manure, or like a nice wet coffee ground that's a lot more compact. You're gonna think about it by weight, not by volume, or else you're gonna have way too much nitrogen and your stuff's gonna stink, and then your wife's gonna complain, and you're not gonna ever be able to compost again until like somehow you trick her into watching like 5 videos in a row. So from the beginning, just make sure by weight, not volume, is how you're going to mix your greens and browns. So your browns are going to be like your dead leaves, chopped up branches, wood chips, sawdust, cardboard, newspaper, not the shiny newspaper, but like the one that's like the black and white old school newspaper. You can send that through a leaf shredder, or I don't know how well it would work with a lawnmower, or a paper shredder. The double crisscross cut paper shredders though, to cut that up, because you want as much surface area of anything that you're composting as possible, so that the bacteria and fungus has as many entry points as possible to every speck of what you're composting down, whether it's leaves or wood chips. That way you'll speed up the process. So those are your browns. Your greens, again, are going to be your life leaves, fresh grass clippings, food, vegetable scraps from indoors, coffee grounds, like banana peels. As long as they're still moist, when they dry out, they lose their nitrogen. Though they still have a lot of potassium, they do lose their nitrogen. So just keep all that in mind when you're composting down. So you should always have a readily available supply of things to compost, especially browns and greens, really, because this time of year, I can go to any park and just rake leaves up at night or in the daytime for an hour and get several bags of leaves for free, compared to going to the Home Depot and buying all this stuff. I can make it for free. For greens, you can go buy like a Jamba Juice or call Jamba Juices up and say, hey, you guys have a lot of fruit pulp. Can you save it? And I come get it once a day or twice a day, for the next week. They'd be happy to do that for you. Or go to a coffee shop. I like Dutch Brothers because they're busy and have a lot of coffee for my browns. So 4 days after this has started, so today's the first day, so 4 days later, I'm going to turn this and I'm going to add in Dutch Brothers coffee grounds. So every 4 days, I'm going to turn this. So this first day, I added what would normally go to the landfill, which is urine, to it. I'd say almost 3 gallons worth went into all this, along with all the wetting down. So I get 30 or so gallons of leaves, wet it flip it, wet it, flip it till there's no dry spots. Add it to the main pile, get about a foot thick, wet it again, do another foot thick, wet it again, and then I just pour the urine on it, and it seeps all the way to the bottom. 4 days later, I'm going to turn the urine in the leaves. The urine should still be active because it's active for about a week or two. And the leaves, turn it over here, and while I'm turning it, I'm going to be adding in the Dutch Brothers. By then, I should have 6 or so 20 to 40 pound bags of coffee grounds, because you can go to Dutch Brothers twice a day and they'll have huge bags twice a day. And if you just do one store, then that should be enough. But if you're greedy and you want to do 2 stores, then you can do that too. So every 4 days. So the first day I'm doing urine. The 4th day I'm going to do coffee grounds, and then 4 days later I'm just going to turn it. I'm not going to add anything else. Maybe a little water to keep things moist because I'm in Arizona and it's dry here. And that's it. 21 to about 30 days later, this will be ready. What I'm going to do is go back to my grow bags and cure it in these grow bags. So I'm going to, preferably, I want to add some Seamus mix to maybe around this tall in each bag. Here, maybe this tall. And then, let me see if I get it better. Maybe about that tall. And then the rest, I'm going to fill up with compost, and I'm probably going to buy a couple bags of worm castings, or 20 bucks, $22 a bag for Worm Plus Gold, the big bags, the big white bags. So I'm thinking maybe 44 bucks of worm castings, and then with that compost, I should be able to fill, and the Seamus mix. So another maybe 3 bags of that. So that's $6 a bag, I believe. Yeah, $6 a bag from Seamus, and I'll fill all 10 of these for pretty cheap compared to buying all the compost and all the worm castings, Seamus mix, buying everything. I'm gonna try to cut my costs as much as possible, specifically with things that would normally go to the landfill, which is pretty cool. So that's how I'm doing it. It's a California method. You can look it up as well online. But basically what the California method says is have your pile 4 foot by 4 foot by 5 foot tall, preferably. Turn it every 3 days. Add an equal portion of greens and browns by weight. Keep it moist but not soggy. It's because you want some air to be able to go in and help stimulate the bacteria to use oxygen in their chemical processes, so that they could break things down and stay alive. 21 days later to 30 days later, maybe even sooner, maybe even 14 days later, depending on what you're composting and your temperatures, your ambient temperatures outside, you're going to have compost, and it's going to be better than any bag compost you can buy at the store. And on top of that, it will be free, completely free. The only thing that I would add, though, is that this is an ideal compost because I'm only using one type of leaf. In a perfect world, I would go to, in the fall, which is now, basically now, I would go to one type, like oleanders, and grab a third of the pile that way. And I would go to another type, like ficus or something, because these drop leaves too, and grab all their leaves. And then I would go to another type of tree that drops its leaves, and grab those leaves and get about 3, if better yet, even 4 different types of leaves. That way, because one tree would take up a majority of 5 nutrients, and it could overlap with this tree. It might not overlap with this tree. That the majority of nutrients would be 5 other nutrients. So if you're only using one tree, but then you're trying to grow 10 different types of vegetables in the compost that you make from it, if it's only one tree with a majority of 5 different nutrients, then you're going to be deficient. But if you're getting leaves from different type of trees, and maybe even wood chips from different type of trees and whatnot, then you're going to have a lot more nutrients in your compost. One more side note is that if you do want to use newspaper and cardboard, it does add depth, and it's going to be a flaky, it's going to be airy, fluffy compost, but the newspaper and cardboard do not add any major nutrients because they've been processed, sometimes more than once. So they're not going to add many nutrients to your compost. It's better than nothing, but just keep that in mind. Like if you do worm bins, instead of adding, the shredded newspaper, which is what they say to do, just use leaves. And that's what worms use in nature, is leaves. So, and leaves have more nutrients, more elements in them than manure, like a lot more. So get it from the source. Use leaves. If you guys have any questions or comments, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching.